Hey guys, I'm really excited to introduce my next guest, Dr. Dave Fabry. He is the Chief Innovation Officer at Starkey. Hey, thanks for joining us today. I am here interviewing one of my very good friends, Dr. Dave Fabry from Minnesota. He's a big Chicago Bear, Minnesota Viking. No, wait, I can't remember. I think it's
Yeah, we're good friends, and you know I'm not a Bear fan or a Viking fan.
He's a longtime Packers fan. Come on, of course we know that he's a cheesehead by heart. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you've got a super busy schedule, and I really appreciate you wearing the jacket for me today. So thanks for joining us.
But you don't know what I'm wearing below the waist, so we'll just say that now that I said that, see, fully clothed. So
okay, all good. All right. Sometimes it's best not to even ask and not even to just imagine. You know, hopefully
you cannot assume these days.
You can't assume, no, and the assumptions could be vast, and it would be fun to actually hear what people would have thought, but now it's too late. So one of the things that I admire is the passion you have for the profession. And back in 2001. I was actually still in my master's program, just a wee little child, getting out of the program, and you had become president of AAA. And why do you feel it's important for people to get into leadership, and what advice or commentary do you have about getting into leadership?
That's a great question. And I'm a big believer in professional involvement. And I think it's way too easy to sit and criticize from the sidelines, but it's a lot harder to get out onto the playing field. And I was certainly very busy. During that time, I was at Mayo Clinic in the sunny southeastern tropical portion of Minnesota, and I had a very active clinical career, was managing the group of audiologists at Mayo. But I also felt it extremely important to actually raise my hand when given the opportunity to participate on the board. And then ultimately, it was the honor that I had to serve as president of the Academy. And it was during a pivotal time when we were really in the formative years yet of the AUD as the first professional degree. And we were looking at that time to really get that direct access to audiology services. And I had the privilege and honor of working with my colleague, Tom McDonald, who was chief of ENT at that time. And he and I had the opportunity to get to know Tommy Thompson. And in 2001, Tommy Thompson, then serving as Health and Human Service Director, flew across the country, which is unheard of, to San Diego to our annual meeting. He came on and in his speech, he pounded his fist on the podium and said that he was going to do everything he could to unite the definition of an audiologist for Medicare and Medicaid definition, which was the on-road to us achieving direct access for services, to enable to bill for our services without referral from another discipline. And Tom McDonald really put his reputation on the line with his counterparts at ENT, which we always were at odds a little bit during that time. And unfortunately, after Tommy Thompson came in April of 2001 and said he was going to get it done, 5 months later, the world changed forever.
Right.
And priorities change, and we're still trying to get independent direct access in our discipline, and it saddens me because that's on the baby boom generation. And I think one of my greatest triumphs was getting them there. My greatest regret is that we didn't push the ball further to really achieve that. And I think one of the responsibilities and accountabilities is to serve the profession. The other is to execute. And I still think we're at this point in time where we have been complacent with on the hearing aid side with going along with a bundled model of technical, the technology with our service. And we're now seeing the unbundling, but it pains me that audiologists are still seen as zero value pool, zero work pool, or non-essential. Because in my heart, I know how essential the sense of hearing is and how essential the role of the professional is and of the audiologist, and that we're still arguing for that this day. It indicates we've got a ways to go yet, but it feels like we're now at a point where we've got the different professional organizations talking to each other and collaborating with each other. And I'm glad to see that we're inching ever closer to our goal. But I think, rather than criticizing and lamenting why we haven't moved, I appreciate people like yourself raising your hand and participating, whether it's on standards, whether it's with regards to the role of the professional. We have to continue to do that, because I think we have to see whether it's OTC or DTC or whether it's third-party payers. The biggest issue is that recognizing the role of the professional, both from the value that they add to the outcome, and also being relentlessly focused on what our services, the value of our services, is critical to the survival and for our profession to thrive. And we're committed to our technology in the hands of the professional is the way to achieve patient delight.
Yeah, and it's amazing that you actually brought up a very interesting topic about essential, because I was just doing a conference call this morning. We're doing a talk at AAA about cognitive decline and hearing loss. And we just talked about, social isolation is one of those things that actually drives people into cognitive decline as well. So it's very, very timely that we talk about that as well with the pandemic and being stuck at home.
Yeah, I refuse to say that there's any silver lining in COVID, but I think if ever there was a point in time where people realized the value and the role of hearing to connect to each other,
Yep.
and for those individuals with hearing loss to realize the benefit of amplification, COVID-19 has reminded us, because as you said, it's often a slippery slope of social isolation, loneliness, depression. And while we're still talking about correlation, not causation, to cognitive decline, we see the way that we're connected to each other. With all due respect to the deaf community, most of us are connected in communication through hearing and through our ears.
Correct. Number one modifiable risk factor is hearing loss.
According to Lancet 2020, absolutely.
Absolutely. So, the silver lining of COVID was the traffic in Los Angeles. Just to give you a heads up, it was
Indeed.
beautiful for a few months. Anyways, I digress. Your career, you've been in very respectable positions throughout your career. You were at the Mayo Clinic.
I've been thrown out of finer joints than this. Yes,
yes,
right.
absolutely. Yes. But you haven't been thrown out of one, which is at Starkey, and Starkey being one of the leaders in hearing care. You are now the Chief Innovation Officer of Starkey. Can you explain what a Chief Innovation Officer is?
Well, simply, basically I look out the window and think deep thoughts. But beyond that, what I do is I reside in the R&D division. And so the cool thing is I get to work on and help develop innovative products as it relates to better hearing. And then this journey that we've been on, moving hearing aids from single-purpose devices to multi-purpose, multifunction ones that include a gateway to health and wellness, gateway to information. Although I reside in R&D, one of my fundamental goals is to ensure that the voice of the patient continues to be heard as we develop the next generation of products. Then I also get to reach over to the market development group side, marketing, education and training, sales, and I work with those teams at how it is that we message the value of these technologies as it meets to our partners in terms of the audiologists and hearing instrument specialists that deliver the products and ultimately meet the needs of those with hearing loss.
Yeah, and when you talk about the different divisions that you're going and talking to, Starkey has a bunch of executives, and I didn't realize how many until I actually looked it up. And there's a lot of executives. You have your leader, right? So Bill Austin being the founder. You have Brandon Swallow, who's
CEO and president. Yep,
CEO and president. And then you guys got a great acquisition, which was Dr. Achin Bhowmick from Intel, I believe, correct?
Yep.
But the one that really stood out to me, and I had the honor of interviewing her last year during COVID, is Dr. Arkel Georgiou. And
Yes.
She's actually listed as Chief Health Officer. And as an MD, is it important, or what is the importance of having an MD as a Chief Health Officer at a hearing aid company?
Well, I think as I alluded, we're on this journey to transition hearing aids from single-purpose devices into those that link, importantly, to the comorbid conditions that go along with hearing. Hearing as you mentioned, during COVID, I think people have begun to appreciate the essential nature of hearing, whether that's with normal hearing individuals or those with hearing loss, to use hearing aid technology. But we've known for about a decade the connection. Some of the first studies that use the NHANES database to identify the link between hearing loss and other conditions were diabetes. And really, if you talk to a cardiologist, they'll tell you that in the aging ear, hearing is often a great barometer of overall cardiovascular health, whether it's through obesity, high blood pressure, risk of stroke, diabetes, that hearing and cardiovascular disease are inextricably intertwined. But then you talk about the issues with regards to cognition, and we've talked about that: loneliness, isolation, depression. But some other issues that aren't so obvious are elevated risks to other health conditions that Arkell really brings in that background and experience as a physician that ties us into that. I think she didn't fully appreciate, she only came on last February of 2020. Never did she anticipate some of the things like how do you protect yourself from COVID-19 in terms of the early stages of the virus, how to deal with PPE. And she was instrumental at communicating both within Starkey and within our larger community to our partners, how they can protect themselves, their employees, their patients. Just so vital during that first year. But now getting back to what we brought her on for is to really bring that physician presence as we look and move forward of identifying the important conditions that exist between hearing loss and other health conditions, being able to also be instrumental at communicating to primary care physicians, to ENTs, to really recognize early warning signs. We saw, importantly, that primary care physicians with the screening measures really declining to sort of recommend that everyone 65, or I think they started with the age of 50, that everyone be screened for hearing. And they said there isn't enough evidence to demonstrate that waiting is detrimental. Arkell is the perfect person to help message, communicate, decide really the need for evidence basis. And again, accountability, that's back on us to continue to prove that it's important not to delay the decision when you know that you have a hearing loss or are told by your family members or friends that you should check your hearing. That 5 to 7 year delay period, we got to get rid of that. But we need to meet that with evidence basis. And Arkell really challenges us to always ensure that we're backing up our assertions, our passion, with data. So we're delighted to have her on board.
She's fantastic. And it's obvious when we see you guys all interacting that you guys make a great team.
Yeah, and you said Achin. I mean, he was running Intel's perceptual computing division and bringing in that connection that he has really with machine learning and AI and all the big Silicon Valley companies and around the world to bring in that perspective outside the jar, outside of our little world, looking at, instead of having to invent everything ourselves, to connect to other world-leading companies and groups that are working on this, whether they're academic backgrounds like Stanford in the Bay Area and Berkeley, or companies that are in there that are all of the obvious ones that you see. His expertise and his connection to that tech world has been a breath of fresh air and has inspired and motivated us to deliver on that promise of using machine learning, artificial intelligence, incorporating that fundamentally how to help people hear better, but then provide that connection to tech instead of having to build everything and invent everything ourselves.
Recreating the wheel, absolutely. And the history, we know when we talk about MDs, we know many of us have heard Bill Austin's story where he was going to go into medical school and decided he wanted to help more people and get into the hearing care space. And he's been doing this for, you told me earlier, he's just celebrated 60 years in the profession. And we're over 54 years of Starkey. And I know just from history where Starkey was and where you guys are now, just over the last 10, 15 years of just unbelievable innovation. And as Chief Innovation Officer, can you talk about where the technology is currently?
Well, I think, Bill Austin, when he established this company in 1967, did so not by following, but by not being afraid to lead and to to go one direction, not because the herd is going in that direction. And I would point to custom devices. When everyone else was focused on BTE devices, the reason that he established and bought this small company that became Starkey today with over 5,000 employees and doing business in 100 countries around the world, it was because he was focused on the patient, focused on customization, personalization. When everyone else was thinking about BTEs, he was zigging and zagging. And when you think about the early work that he did with video otoscopes, with early embracing real ear measurements before people were thinking about that even, Bill was always there, and really with the focus on the patient. That is still central to what we do today. And there's no one that's looked in as many ears as he has and understands the dynamic properties and that customization and the focus on patient-driven care. Couple that with whom you just mentioned, when you think about Brandon in the industry, when you think about Chin as new to the industry, and Arkell and the other executives, but more importantly, the other employees, boots on the ground, whether they're engineers, audiologists, manufacturing people, looking at bringing this technology with a patient-centered, or I would even say a patient-driven focus to innovate in this market by developing the products that go in the professional's hands. Like I said, you can be a reasonable clinician with great technology and achieve success. You can be an outstanding clinician with marginal technology and still get reasonable success. But you need great technology with great expertise and caring to deliver patient delight. And that really, when we talk about all the fears out there, whether it's OTC or third party or big box and what people are all worried about commoditizing their role, your role cannot be commoditized if you are focused on what you do best with great technology and focus on the patient to achieve delight. If you achieve delight and add impactful outcomes, if you show that you're caring about the patient and trying to over deliver value with every interaction, your role can't be commoditized. And that's what we're committed to on our side, and putting that technology in your hands to deliver delight.
Yeah, and speaking of that, the newest line of hearing aids that Starkey has is the Livio Edge AI, which has been a fantastic product. You guys have won, I don't know, how many awards have you guys won on that product just alone? And what we're seeing is a lot of these hearing devices are becoming more healthable devices.
Yeah.
So the Livio Edge AI actually even has, fall detection. You can track your steps. You've got brain tracking. You've got all this amazing technology built in. Where are we going to go forward? I mean, where are we going from here in terms of hearing technology?
Well, it's a great point. And because I think fundamentally, we'll always focus on trying to provide outstanding sound quality and speech intelligibility. And I think as we've seen this convergence between consumer devices and hearing aids, don't let it go unnoticed that most of those healthable devices that are ear-worn hearables have a 3 to 5 hour battery life if they're truly independent devices. Think about all of the hearing aid manufacturers now transitioning to rechargeable devices like the ones I have here.
Yeah.
20 hours of battery life with 4 or 5 hours of streaming every day. That's, low power wireless functionality that directly connects to an Android or iPhone is not your grandmother or grandfather's technology. So I think we'll continue to see the focus on connectivity, whether it's an iPhone or an Android phone. That connectivity is increasingly becoming table stakes because you want to stream podcasts, you want to stream video calls like this, you want to stream music, any audio from your phone, turn-by-turn navigations. That's the expectation. Where we see this technology is combining that with physical activity monitoring to encourage people to be healthier in their lifestyle. And then, as you said, the social engagement piece, not just wearing their devices, that's understood, but then engaging in conversation with other people, being more physically active. Even as you said, fall detection, we've heard tremendous things back from the market about the peace of mind that fall detection feature provides, not only to the hearing aid wearer, but to his or her family members who want to know that if mom or dad is living independently, that they're not going to be that baby boom nightmare of that old woman laying on the ground saying, I've fallen and I can't get up. Right. And that feature is one that we think has contributed to a lot of peace of mind. We've heard a lot of stories back from patients and providers about how they've suffered a fall and got the alerts. And so we continue to see that, but then also that other piece, we all have technology we're talking to. Alexa, Siri, Google, etc. Think about the special use case with hearing impaired individuals, that they need to be able to ask the question to command and control their devices. Say, turn my volume up, change my program. They want to get medication reminders. We know in individuals who are taking chronic medications, the adherence to that is less than 50%. And that being able to just simply hear a reminder that they hear on a daily basis that says, take your medication, drink water to avoid dehydration.
Right.
All of that so that they can hear it in a manner that compensates for their hearing loss should enable the person with hearing loss to get just as addicted to their technology as the rest of us.
I'm kind of smiling here as you said that, because I realized that I also did not take my medication this morning because I was in a rush to get out.
It would have told you that. It would have reminded you.
It would have reminded me, and I'm still awake, so that's good. One thing I didn't mention is, the Livio Edge AI is available on a RIC device and the custom rechargeability and connectivity and having these sensors. I mean, that's a lot in a small package.
The thing that we didn't fully appreciate, we launched this technology in January of last year, and we know that we've had the Find My Hearing Aid feature on the smartphone for a while, and people have said, oh, they've had to use that because they flipped their RICs. I love RICs, but they flipped them off. But custom devices, rechargeable, direct connected with the masks going on and off many times every day is one thing. The other thing is that edge mode that you mentioned, just a simple double tap or button press, optimizes in ways that a mask mode offset in an app can't simply do, because those offsets, while they do help people hear better, the other thing that we realized from making many measurements of masks, of shields, of all of the different kinds, is that not all of these masks attenuate speech in the same way. Interestingly, we found that the clear shields or the clear panels actually enhance or resonate to increase speech in some regions and then attenuate in the other. Well, by enabling that edge mode to be activated by the individual for social distancing, for face mask use, it optimizes to the specific environment that they're in, which goes a lot further than just an offset used by a mask mode. So we didn't even anticipate the degree to which edge mode and custom devices would contribute to the benefit that hearing aid users found, because we launched this before COVID, but it paid dividends during the COVID era. And now roughly 1 in 3 devices that we're providing are custom. So we're glad that custom has entered the conversation again. And we hope it has a lasting impact, because when people are fearing commoditization of big box or anything, remember how to make ear mold impressions, how to customize solutions, provide solutions that people want, instead of always trying to hide and thinking of custom only to hide hearing loss. Think about celebrating it a little bit, make it look more like a hearable.
Yep. It's much harder to do an over-the-counter custom device.
In my opinion, it is really difficult to do that. And yet it is the critical solution that, as I said, goes back to the origins of Starkey, but continues to this day to be a differentiating feature that we see we do better than anyone else in the market. And it's really, from start to today, what we've been focused on, because it's patient-driven care.
Yeah. Well, this has been amazing. I love talking, with you, number one, and then of course getting into the weeds of all the technology. It's always, we could talk for hours, I'm sure, but you have to get home, I'm sure, at some point. And we
not for a while yet.
Yeah. Well, we're excited to have you guys in October. This October, we're actually all going to be on a cruise ship in the Bahamas for the 2021 AudBoss Summit. And thank you, Starkey, for being a grand sponsor of that. One of the things that you're going to be talking about, I believe, and maybe I should just ask you, do you know what you're going to be talking about in the fall on the cruise ship?
Well, we'll be talking about this continued journey of this transition of hearing aids from single purpose to multi-purpose devices. That health and wellness piece that you mentioned will certainly be a topic of discussion. Yep. Areas that we continue to see post-COVID, that a role that custom devices can play in your practice to really help you meet or exceed those patient needs, prevent commoditization, how to incorporate telehealth beyond the acute nature of COVID, to think about ways to navigate through the disruptions that are provided by OTC, by TPAs, et cetera, to enable you to still run your business, to be profitable and thrive during these challenging times. We can't continue to do things the way we've always done them. And that's what I think AudBoss is all about. And we're glad to support this, is to really, drive into the disruption and think about the ways that the professional can interact with the technology by keeping that patient focus. And we're fully aligned with your vision for that. And so I'll be talking about that and a little bit more.
So thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're extremely busy and we look forward to seeing you. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.